Sloth Uni! We got part 2 of our preview of starts and sits for this set of games on Sunday. You guys already know the drill if you're coming in from part 1. We're not going to dilly-dally, so let's get straight into these. Grab some popcorn, put on your tinfoil hats, and get comfortable because class is now in session. Kicking it off, we got Saints versus Falcons. For the Saints, you started Alvin Kamara, you're starting Alvin Kamara. I'm not too sure if Michael Thomas will play this game, but if he plays, I'll start him just because he's Michael Thomas, similar to J.K. Dobbins, but I'm not too sure what to expect from him. Saying that, I will start Chris Olave whether or not Michael Thomas plays, but I am more optimistic about starting Chris Olave than I would be Michael Thomas. This is a divisional game, so anything could really happen. Jameis Winston, I would be open to starting in 2 QB leagues and Superflex leagues again. And lastly, up with this Saints team, I would start the Saints defense. I think they will thrive against this Falcons offense, and I think they are a contender for number 1 defense on the week. Number 1 defense of the week could very well be Saints D. Saints sits, I'm sitting Mark Ingram. I know you got better options out there. Go pick up Mike Davis. Falcons starts. Kyle Pitts is the only must start from this Falcons team. That's it. He's not the only start, but he's the only must start. If you drafted Kyle Pitts, you gotta start Kyle Pitts. I'd be open to start Drake London, but I view him as more of a high tier wide receiver 3, very low tier wide receiver 2. I like Drake London, but with his injury and the matchup against Marshawn Lattimore, I'm not too keen on starting him, but if he's your best flex or one of your best flexes up, I'd be down to start him. I wouldn't be afraid to start him. Actually, in this matchup, I would be very much afraid to start him, but if you're forced to start him, you should start him. Because I think AJ Green will do better than Drake London, but I would not start AJ Green over Jake London. There's limits to what I believe AJ Green will do, and being an extremely productive wide receiver at his old age, and while I do think he'll have a good game, I hedge my bets on Drake London having a better game than AJ Green. Cordero Patterson. Cordero Patterson is someone who was extremely productive last year in an extremely unprecedented year, and he was a very good running back at his old age, and you would assume he has tread on his tires, but he's only played 1 year as a running back, so you can't say he has too much tread on his tires. But again, he's over the age of 31, I believe, so the odds of him repeating aren't very great, especially because the Falcons seem very keen on running 2 running backs, and they just signed Damian Williams, who I also have as a start. If you're in a very much so of a pinch, I would start Damian Williams over Raheem Mostert, but Damian Williams is someone, if you need to start a running back, I would start him. Sadly. I wouldn't be happy about it. I'd be alone crying in a corner all week. I would not watch the game. I would not look at my phone. I wouldn't check for updates. I would just throw Damian Williams into my lineup and stay in a dark corner of anywhere and just cry. But I would start Damian Williams. I would not start Marcus Mariota. He's one of the people. Anybody else in this Falcons offense that I did not list, by the way, not starting them. On to Steelers versus Bengals. For the Steelers, if you took the chance on drafting Najee Harris after hearing that injury, I personally like Najee Harris, but I did not believe he would have the same value as last year, and especially with this injury news coming out, it's scaring me off a bit of him, but I still think he'll be very productive. If you drafted Najee Harris, you have no choice but to start Najee Harris. Deontay Johnson was someone who I think he'll be the number 1 wide receiver of this offense, but I don't think he'll finish as... He may finish as the number 1 wide receiver, but I don't think towards the end of the year he will stay the number 1 wide receiver of this offense. He probably will, but I don't think he will. For week 1, I'm starting Deontay Johnson. there's nobody else on the Steelers offense that I would start over Deontay Johnson wide receiver wise. So other than Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, there's nobody really I'm looking forward to starting. Even though I'm not really looking forward to starting Deontay Johnson, I don't think he'll have about the same consistency. He is a very good wide receiver though. So if you drafted him, you have no choice but to put your faith in him. If you drafted him, I don't think you would bench him. That's just, I mean, unless you drafted like a super squad. But Mitchell Trubisky, again, 2 quarterback, super flex leagues. I would be keen on starting Mitchell Trubisky if you waited on QB. I would very much start Jared Goff over him. I don't think Jared Goff would be on waiver wires in 2 QB or flex or super flex leagues, but if he is, I would start Jared Goff over him. Pittsburgh Steelers sits. I'm not starting Chase Claypool. I'm not starting Pat Freiermuth. I'm not starting George Pickens until they prove to me that they can be productive with Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback. I'm not starting any of those people. Bengals starts. Let's get the easy ones out of the way. Joe Burrow, you're starting him. Jamar Chase, you're starting him. Joe Mixon, you're starting him. T. Higgins, you're starting him. Tyler Boyd, I would start him as a low-end flex, wide receiver 3, but other than that, most everybody on the Bengals offense, you're starting them. For better or for worse, if you drafted these people, they will more than likely, other than Tyler Boyd, be your week in, week out starters. Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Bengals tend to either be back and forth or very low scoring, which, I mean, in an NFL game, is there really any other way to go other than like completely one-sided? But I don't think this will be one-sided. But I have no clue if this will either be a super low-scoring game or a super back-and-forth game. So, unless I'm on the Bengals side of this bout, I'm staying away from most everybody. On to the Chiefs Cardinals. I predict this to be a very high-scoring game, but with the news of Rondale Moore, I'm tempering my expectations a bit. I know we're not getting into the Cardinals first, but you know what? We'll wait. We'll wait for that. Patrick Mahomes, you're starting him. Travis Kelce, you're starting him. After that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if you drafted him, you're more than likely starting him. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is one of those running backs who you draft, and after you draft him, you're looking at him in your roster, and you're like, I need to trade for a running back. Personally, I wouldn't want to trade for a running back after having Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But the presence of Isaiah Pacheco and their constant obsession to replace him ever since he's been drafted, which is crazy to me, because why would you draft a first-round running back and literally not even halfway through his rookie year? Since the time they've drafted Le'Veon Bell, it seems like they've been trying to replace Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And if not replace him, find someone who can do his job better than him. And so far, there has been nobody who the Chiefs have taken in who have done their job better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I think they may have just found one with Isaiah Pacheco because I actually like him a lot. But I'm starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire for better or for worse. I personally don't have him in many leagues. I believe I have him in one league, and I am definitely starting him. Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he'll finish as the wide receiver 1 of this team, other than Sky Moore, but you're starting Juju Smith-Schuster. I project this to be a pretty high-scoring game, so if you need a flex option and your flexes aren't looking too good, you got MVS or Mecole Hardman. I would definitely take a shot with one of them catching a deep bomb from Patrick Mahomes because it could very well happen in this game. I would start the both of them. Not on the same team, but if you needed one person as a flex option and you were just like, okay, I just need a big game, or I just need somebody who has a possibility to score a lot of points, MVS Mecole Hardman would be very well perfect for this because any one of them could catch a deep bomb from Patrick Mahomes any given moment. But Sky Moore, Isaiah Pacheco, until they have proved that they can be producers in this Chiefs offense, they are getting left on the bench. I have both of them in one league, and I don't know how I feel about it because Sky Moore, both of them may take time to actually gain some foothold, and I don't want to drop them because they do hold a lot of value even as backups. but they're best belonging on the bench. I'll say that. Until they've proved, because I do believe in both of them. I drafted them for a reason, but until they prove that they can be starters, they're on the bench. Now for the Cardinals. You drafted Kyler Murray or Hollywood Brown or even James Conner, you're starting them. If Zach Ertz plays this game, you're starting Zach Ertz. With the news of Rondale Moore being injured, every Cardinals wide receiver gets a boost from where they once were. So Hollywood Brown gets a very significant boost. Zach Ertz would get a boost. AJ Green gets a boost. Kyler Murray, I was going to say Curler Murray, or whatever the hell I was about to say. Kyler Murray gets a downgrade. I know I had him as one of my starts of the week, and I still feel pretty confident about him, but I don't believe he'll have a nuclear game that he very well could have had with Rondale Moore in there, with Rondale Moore out. Because the offense with Kyler, Hollywood, James Conner, Zach Ertz, Rondale Moore, and AJ Green was a lot better than Kyler Murray, Hollywood Brown, AJ Green, Greg Dolce. What was his name? I forgot his name. The random fourth year wide receiver that they have after AJ Green. Kyler Murray is still going to be very good, but I'm not sure he's going to have a crazy game. Hollywood could very well have a crazy game. James Conner may have a crazy game. And if Zach Ertz doesn't play, listen, it ain't the flashy pick. It sure as hell sounds crazy, but AJ Green could be in line for a very big day in week 1 if Zach Ertz does not play and Rondale Moore is already set. He's already cleared to not play. AJ Green is in a position where he could very well be winning you fantasy games again. No, I'm not a time traveler from 2013. On the Cardinals sits, I'm not starting Eno Benjamin. I am not starting Darrell Williams. Yes, they could have a role and they could very well have good games with James Conner not being the workhorse. But we don't know if James Conner is going to be the workhorse or if he's going to be splitting carries. And frankly, I don't care. I'm not risking my week 1 on Eno Benjamin or Darrell Williams on the potential that they get a few catches or a few carries until they show on the field that they can be productive. It's one of those. Giants versus Titans. There aren't many people who I'm too excited about starting in this game at all. Derrick Henry on the Titans side, you're starting him. After that, it gets a little scary. I would start Robert Woods and Treylon Burks as flexes, but I wouldn't be happy about it. Until we figure out, we'll see after week 1, but until we figure out who is the number 1 target for this team, and until we figure out just how good or bad Treylon Burks can be, I don't know how I feel about this Titans wide receiver core. I would start Ryan Tannehill even if in single quarterback leagues, if you drafted Ryan Tannehill and you waited, and Ryan Tannehill was one of those people there, you just drafted him. I would start him this week, but don't expect him to just ball out. He just lost AJ Green. Who knows how good Treylon Burks is going to be? Yes, he did get Robert Woods, but I don't think he'll light it up. He could have a solid game, but I don't think he'll go crazy. Titans defense is another defense that I think can finish as one of the best defenses on the week. This Giants team is like, imagine the Jaguars team, but with Jacoby Brissett. Yeah, that's actually a very accurate way to describe how I feel about this Giants team. The Jaguars offense, but with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. Like, other than Saquon Barkley, who I am wishy-washy on, there's really nobody who I am happily starting on this Giants team. If there was anybody, and I mean anybody from this team, who I feel confident about throughout the season, it's either got to be Kadarius Toney or Sterling Shepard. But for week 1, I am 100% not starting Sterling Shepard after that injury. I don't even know how he's even in position to be able to play week 1 miraculously. But if he does play week 1, I am not starting him. That injury is already horrific and ridiculous to come back from. And the fact that he's even on pace to start week 1, he is not human, and I want no business with him. I mean, he's very clearly, in my opinion, the best wide receiver on this team and should be treated as such. But for week 1, especially coming back from that injury, I'm not too sure if I would give him the start on my team. But if I had to choose one wide receiver that I would start from this team, it would be Kadarius Toney, easily. He is the only person who I would feel any type of confidence starting for week 1 from this wide receiver core. I'm sitting Kenny Golladay. I'm sitting Sterling Shepard. I'm sitting Wan'Dale Robinson. I like Wan'Dale Robinson, and I think he has potential to take over. Take over is a strong word, but I think he has a potential to be the guy to have in this Giants offense. I was gonna say the guy, but I don't see Wan'Dale Robinson as the guy. I think he has a roadmap to be the guy to have in this offense, but I'm not too sure if it'll happen in week 1. If there's anybody I'm starting from this Giants offense, it's Kadarius Toney, wide receiver wise. Everybody else to the bench. Daniel Jones, dude, listen, all you Daniel Jones truthers out there, I would be ecstatic having Daniel Jones on my bench and he have 60 points on my bench week 1 than starting Daniel Jones week 1 in my starting lineup. Like, there is nothing you can say to me that will get me to start Daniel Jones in my week 1 lineup other than that will not be Daniel Jones playing on the field for the Giants. That will be Tom Brady, who is now a shapeshifter, playing for this Giants offense. And even then, I'll be like, wow, Tom Brady's a little old. I don't know, man. But now, if you said it was Josh Allen, who was a shapeshifter, and he's now playing for this Giants offense, and he's decided to shapeshift into Daniel Jones to fool everybody, I'll be like, you know what? Why not? Throw him in there. But other than that, and maybe some other people who are shapeshifters in this hypothetical, I'm not starting Daniel Jones. On to the Packers-Vikings. You're starting Aaron Rodgers, but with the wide receiver core that you're looking at, I wouldn't be happy about starting Aaron Rodgers, but like, you have to start Aaron Rodgers. He's Aaron Rodgers. Like, yes, I don't think Aaron Rodgers will even have a good game. I think Aaron Rodgers will have a below average game for even NFL standards. Like, I don't think you're going to be happy about starting Aaron Rodgers. But if you have Aaron Rodgers and you have no other people, there's no way you're going to look me in my eyes and be like, bro, I wouldn't even tell you guys to do this. Just, hey, you got to start Joe Flacco over him, man. Like, I know, like, you're going to look at your lineup and see Aaron Rodgers on your bench and Joe Flacco in your starting lineup. You're going to throw up. Like, there's going to be no hesitation. Like, you're going to look at your phone or your computer. It's going there's no hesitation. Like, who are you realistically going to start if you don't have any other options at quarterback? You're going to start Geno Smith over Aaron Rodgers. Like, I get the wide receiver core is not there. Allen Lazard is injured right now. He's going to miss week 1. They just lost Devontae Adams. So you're looking at Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb, Romeo Doubs, Robert Tonyan. Aaron Jones will likely lead in catches this game. But, like, who are you going to start over? I'd start Jared Goff over Aaron Rodgers, but that's just me. I mean, it would be disgusting. I'm not going to throw up, but I might throw up a little bit in my mouth seeing Aaron Rodgers on my bench and a Mitchell Trubisky, a Jared Goff, a Marcus Mariota, a Carson Wentz, any of these other guys who you may have, you're not going to start them over Aaron Rodgers. And now listen, if you can stomach it, there are a few names who I would start over Aaron Rodgers. I would start Jameis Winston over Aaron Rodgers. That one wouldn't make me throw up in my mouth even a little bit. I mean, I would be a little sick. Like, I might feel a little nauseous, but like, it wouldn't make me throw up. I would start Aaron Rodgers over Matt Ryan. I would start Trevor Lawrence over Aaron Rodgers. I would start Ryan Tannehill. I don't know if I would start Ryan Tannehill over Aaron Rodgers. If they were both in my lineup, I would probably just like burn my quarterback position for week 1. The way it's looking. Like, is there an option for me to just like not have a quarterback and the other team to just not have a quarterback and we just squabble it out? Like, can we just subtract the totals that our quarterback have and just like, okay, won't have quarterbacks for this game, and whatever points the quarterbacks get, we'll just take them out. But Aaron Rodgers, I would start Justin Fields over Aaron Rodgers. That one would probably make me dry heave. Just a little bit. I like Justin Fields too, but like, Aaron Rodgers is a back-to-back MVP, and he has found success no matter who his wide receivers are. And it looks scary now, but one of these wide receivers that I'm about to list out will likely have a good game. Solid game. But before we list out the wide receivers, if you have Aaron Jones, you're starting him. And I'm here to tell you right now, I wasn't the highest person on this guy I'm about to name in the offseason. But as the season went on, or as the offseason went on, I should say, I grew an infatuation with this person. Not because of the size of their massive thighs, but because this guy is just, his opportunity, his talent, not his thigh size, but his actual body size, his strength, his speed, his athleticism. AJ Dillon is someone who I very firmly believe will finish within the top 20 of running backs. He finishes the running back 23 last year, and this team just lost Devontae Adams. You're telling me they're going into this game without the person who was replacing Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard, and they're not going to rely on their running backs? Come on. If you have AJ Dillon, start him with the utmost confidence as a mid to high tier RB2. I don't think he has a crazy game, but he could, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a crazy game. Like, him and Aaron Jones could just like both put up 15 plus. That would not shock me at all. But into these wide receivers. If you had a gun to my head and you said you have to start one of these Packers wide receivers, I'm taking Randall Cobb. He is the person who Aaron Rodgers, I feel like, has the most trust in out of all these guys. He's been with him for it feels like an eternity. I mean, I know he left the team, but he came back. So I think he'll be the guy. I don't think he'll have a crazy game. But if you told me, if you had a gun to my head and said, you have to choose one Packers wide receiver to go absolutely bonkers in week 1, I would close my eyes, take a deep breath, and slide Sammy Watkins into my flex spot and pray. Now listen, this is not a pro Sammy Watkins take, but this is not saying start Sammy Watkins. But if you're crazy enough, if you got no options, AJ Green is gone. But listen, even if AJ Green is still there, I wouldn't be mad at you starting Sammy Watkins. Listen, the way he be having some week 1 sometimes, I wouldn't put it past him. Like, Sammy Watkins in week 1 is just like, he's just fit me for a gold jacket already. He like, after the game, he's just like, I'm in the Hall of Fame, enshrined. Put my bust up there. I belong up there with Deion Sanders. Like, you know, you got the, in basketball terms, you got the masked LeBron, you got untucked shirt Kyrie, and then you got week 1 Sammy Watkins. But I don't know how long this trend will continue, so personally, I'm not starting Sammy Watkins. But I can understand why someone would. The last of the 2 starts, or the last of 2 starts, that made no sense. But the last 2 starts that we have for the Packers, Romeo Doubs, if you had literally zero options, again, I would start Romeo Doubs. I feel like I'm saying his name wrong. I think it's Romeo Dobbs. Yeah. I don't know. I have no clue why I'm saying Romeo Doubs. Like, I'm looking at his name and I'm like, Doubs. But Romeo Dobbs, in a pinch, I would start him as a low tier flex. He had the preseason hype. Aaron Rodgers has been hyping him up a bit. Alan Lazard is no longer there, but they still got Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb. He's younger than them. He's been impressing. I wouldn't be mad at the start. Robert Tonyan, you got no other options at tight end. Sure, go ahead, throw Robert Tonyan out there. But if you got a tight end who's gonna give you like maybe 3 to 5 points, maybe Robert Tonyan catches a catch. Maybe he catches a touchdown or two. Like, throw him out there. I wouldn't be mad at the start, but he's not a top option. For the sits, along with Sammy Watkins, listen, Sammy Watkins is a start/sit, honestly. He is the only start, or not the only, I believe there were some other ones, but start him at your own risk. He is one of the biggest high risk, high rewards of week 1, especially this week 1. He could have a crazy week 1, or he could give you 2 fantasy points. I don't think there's an in-between. There likely will be an in-between, but like, it feels like there's no in-between. But yes, Christian Watkins, Sammy Watson. I messed that all the way up. Christian Watson, Sammy Watkins, both will be on the bench. Yes. Vikings, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins. You're starting them all. For this game in particular, especially for week 1, I wouldn't be mad at starting Adam Thielen. He'll be a fine flex, but rest of season, I'm not too high on him. I kind of like KJ Osborne a lot more than him the rest of the season. But for week 1, I have Adam Thielen over KJ Osborne, and I would start Adam Thielen with confidence in my flex spot. KJ Osborne, I would start him with a lot less confidence, but I would start him with a bit of confidence in my flex spot. Irv Smith Jr. is a name who people really just like forgot about, I feel like. And I think he'll have a really decent season. I don't know if he'll have a monster season. I don't think he'll have a monster game. But I think he will be one of those tight ends who will, I think he'll be, if he's on the waiver wires, let me check, see just what percentage of leagues he's rostered in. He's rostered in 46% of leagues, and I think he'll be the number 1 added tight end of week 1 after his performance. And if he isn't the number 1 added tight end by week 1, he most likely will be the number 1 added tight end by week 2 or 3. Next up, we got what I think will be the highest scoring game of week 1. Raiders versus Chargers. On the Raiders side, Devontae Adams. If you're not starting him, you're crazy. Darren Waller. You're not starting him, you're crazy. Derek Carr. You're not starting him, you're crazy. Josh Jacobs. If you're not starting him, I think you guys get where this is going. You're crazy. Hunter Renfrow. You guys thought I was gonna say if you're not starting, you're crazy, right? If you're not starting Hunter Renfrow, you wouldn't be crazy, because I got some things to say about Hunter Renfrow. I really like Hunter Renfrow. I genuinely, in like last year when nobody believed in Hunter Renfrow, I was at least to my knowledge of the people I know, I was one of the only people that believed in Hunter Renfrow. I was trying my darndest to trade Hunter Renfrow away for a better option. And before Henry Ruggs got injured, or not injured, but before Henry Ruggs had that tragic accident, Hunter Renfrow was a nobody. Or not a nobody, but he was not the Hunter Renfrow that we know of. You know what people would say when I would bring up the name Hunter Renfrow? They would say, he's alright, but he's Hunter Renfrow. I feel like he's going to return to that. Like, he will be alright, and no disrespect to Hunter Renfrow, but he will go back to being just Hunter Renfrow. He'll be the third option for a team that will like to run the ball a lot. They will be pass happy as well, but yes, he'll have his games. He won't just destroy your lineup week in, week out. I don't think he'll just have stinker after stinker after stinker, but he will not be as consistent as he was last year at that high of a level unless there is an injury to either Darren Waller or Devontae Adams. And those are two injury-prone people who I just named. So it could very well happen. But Hunter Renfrow should not be regarded as a high-end flex or a high-end wide receiver 2 that he once was unless there's an injury. With all this being said, if you have no other better options, if you don't start Hunter Renfrow, you're crazy. On to the Chargers starts. Also, there are no Raiders starts. Raiders sits. If you're thinking about starting anybody outside of that, just sit them. Like, if you have anybody that I didn't name on the Chargers team, you're in too big of a fantasy league. Because realistically, why? No. Listen, level with me. Why on earth? Why on God's green earth would you join a fantasy league where you are in a start-sit decision and one of your options is Demarcus Robinson? No disrespect to Demarcus Robinson, but like, this is going past strategic. This is like, you're just throwing darts from 50 miles away through a keyhole. Now onto the Chargers starts. Justin Herbert. If you're not starting him, you're crazy. Austin Eckler. If you're not starting him, you're crazy. Keenan Allen. I'm going to say you're not starting him. If you're not starting him, you're crazy. But I just want to say this. This is the first time in like 3-4 years that I don't own Keenan Allen in any league, and I don't know what to do with myself anymore. Like, Keenan Allen was my rock. Like, if you've never owned Keenan Allen in any fantasy year, you don't understand what it means to have Keenan Allen in your lineup. Because everything could possibly go wrong in your week, and you will be looking at every single player who played, and you're like, man, Keenan Allen just doesn't miss. Like, literally go back and look at this guy's, like, he's had some games, maybe one or two. I feel like the max he's had in the past 3-4 years is 2 games a season where you're genuinely disappointed in PPR, where you're genuinely disappointed with what he does. Like, Keenan Allen has to be the most consistent fantasy wide receiver who isn't a person going in the first 2 rounds. And it's crazy because he never goes past, I don't think there's ever somebody in round 2 who's like, you know what, let me draft Keenan Allen. But he's somebody who deserves to go in round 2. It's just they just take them based on the upside of what they can do. Like, Keenan Allen he's one of the most boring fantasy players you could ever have. But in the long run, the boring is good because you know what you're going to get from Keenan Allen. You're going to get somebody who is going to deliver you points no matter what, unless he gets injured. But he's going to give you an excellent baseline. And it's not just 10 points. This guy will give you 7 for 70 on a bad day. Or one of his bad days, I believe he had 10 catches for 64 yards. But the guy had 10 catches. We've gone on for too long about this. But Keenan Allen has been one of my roster rocks for so long, and a place in my heart is missing without him. If you're not starting Mike Williams, you're crazy. Gerald Everett is someone who I would take a chance on at tight end if you had no other options. There's a lot if you had no other options, but there's a lot of people who have no other options. So if you have no other options at tight end, Gerald Everett, I wouldn't be comfortable taking a chance on him, but they signed him for a reason. I think he'll be one of those guys who disappoints you a lot more than you appreciate what he's done for you, but I would still take a chance on him just because of the quarterback he's attached to. Also, a flex that I would be open to starting. I know it's week 1, anything could happen, so I would be open to starting Joshua Palmer as one of my flexes. I don't think he'll have too great a game, but he's gotten a lot of buzz It's been going under the radar a bit. It's a little bit of if you know, you know. But, like, people have been talking crazy about Joshua Palmer. And listen, Keenan Allen is getting up there in age. The Chargers could be grooming their next number 1 wide receiver. I'm not saying Joshua Palmer is that guy, but I would take a swing at him for week 1. There are a lot of people who I wouldn't trust in my lineup for week 1. But the fact that Joshua Palmer has enough buzz that I would take a swing on him in week 1, and the fact that I think there's going to be so many fantasy points scored in this game, I would definitely take a swing at him in week 1. Last matchup also, before I get into this last matchup of the day. There are no sit options for the Chargers. Unless, again, like, I have seen some options. Because I know you're out there. I know they're out there. They're these crazy 16, 24, 32-man leagues. Like, what do you gain? Like, no, seriously. Like, especially if you're at, oh my gosh. Imagine being at the number 1 position or the last pick of the draft in a 32-man league. Like, your roster is going to be looking crazy. You're going to go from CMC to T. Higgins. And I know a lot of people do that just like normally. But like, you could very well go just straight up like from CMC, and now your next best pick is DJ Moore. 32-man leagues are... No. I'm going to say it. I'm sorry to people who are in 32-man leagues. But if you're in a 32-man league willingly, and it's not for money, you're a psychopath. Into this last game. Buccaneers versus the Cowboys. Buccaneers starts. Tom Brady. You got Tom Brady. You got to be starting him. Come on, it's his last season. He came out of retirement. Listen, if there's any season where Tom Brady is just like shows he's not that guy anymore, this is his last chance to do it. But I've learned more than enough times. I'm not betting against Tom Brady, but I wouldn't be shocked if he fell off, like, at all. Now, I don't think he fell off because personally, I don't believe Tom Brady would have even come out of retirement if he had any doubts in his mind that he was still going to be dominant. But listen, Father Time is him. Like, he undefeated, never lost, zero L's. Like, he is that guy. Tom Brady is that guy, but every guy is that guy till they meet another guy who is that guy. And Father Time is the guy of guys. Tom Brady has done an excellent job at escaping him so far. And I don't want to jinx him or anything because, I'm a Dolphins fan. I hated Tom Brady. Or I wouldn't say hate. That's a strong word. But I disliked Tom Brady for what he did to our division for so long. Once he left it out, I've become very fond of Brady. And I would hate to see anything bad happen to him, genuinely. Because I really do like Tom Brady. Pains me to say, but he's the Tom Brady's the Tom Brady's the Tom Brady's the GOAT. Yeah, that's all you get. No, but seriously, Tom Brady is, at this point, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. I believe that Dan Marino is, skill-wise, the greatest quarterback of all time. But gotta give Tom Brady his props. He's earned it at this point. I really don't believe he would have come back out of retirement if he didn't believe he was still going to be dominant. If you drafted Tom Brady, you gotta start him, man. The guy's been playing the best football of his life. If you're not starting him, why did you even draft him in the first place? Mike Evans, start him. I'm not going to go over anything else. Start him. Leonard Fournette, same thing. No questions asked. Start him. Chris Godwin. I don't like this one. Because if you have Chris Godwin, you want to start him. But coming back from that injury, especially this early, I don't think I would start him. And it's hard because if he plays and he does good, which he very well can because he's Chris Godwin, you're going to be kicking yourself because you're like, I just sat Chris Godwin with Tom Brady as his quarterback. But if he does play, and he isn't fully recovered from his injury, he is going to just like chop the legs off of your roster. Personally, I would not start Chris Godwin unless I had absolutely no other options. This is not an AJ Green type. I know I've been listening to AJ Green and Mike Davis, but like, bro, these are two very good options. I don't know if I would start AJ Green over Chris Godwin if I had them. If Chris Godwin played, AJ Green is more than likely going to have a better game than him, but I would still start Chris Godwin over AJ Green just because he's Chris Godwin and it's AJ Green. But Julio Jones, if Chris Godwin doesn't play, Julio Jones will be a very fine option. Chris Godwin doesn't play, Chris Godwin does play. I think Cameron Brate, not Cameron Great. He may be named Cameron Great after this game though, but I think Cameron Brate will be a very solid option. You saw, yes, Brady had a very good connection with Gronk, but Cameron Brate has shown success in the league, so I think there's a path for him to have success in this offense. Sits, I'm not starting Scotty Miller. I'm not starting Russell Gage. Chris Godwin plays, Chris Godwin doesn't play. I'm not starting either one of those. They could have a great game for all I care. AJ Green is out there on waivers. I would gladly start AJ Green over both of these people. Cowboys starts. Dak Prescott. I'm starting Dak Prescott, but temper your expectations a bit. Not because of the Bucs defense, just because of the Cowboys offense. I don't know how I feel about the Cowboys offense, but Dak Prescott has had success, so I trust him enough to put him in my starting lineup and not just screw me over. I don't own any Dak Prescott. I don't own any shares of any Cowboys people other than Dalton Schultz in one league, I believe. I've tried my darndest to get CeeDee Lamb, but where he's going and where I've been drafting in these leagues is just so hard, because a lot of my drafts I'm either picking at like 12 or 1 or 2 or 4. Like if I was at pick 8, I would probably still CeeDee Lamb almost every single time, because I love CeeDee Lamb. But I don't think that he will finish as the wide receiver 1. I think like people are saying, oh, he could finish leading the league in wide receiver receiving yards. No, like I don't think that's a reality. Like that may be a reality, but it's not this reality. I think CeeDee Lamb's ceiling is closer to bottom half of top 10 wide receivers. I'm talking like 7-8 range. I think CeeDee Lamb is being drafted slightly too high. I think he belongs in the middle to end of second round. He's going there in a lot of places, but he's also going in the front end of the second round. And I'm not too sure he belongs there. Now, I don't think you'll be upset with drafting him there, but I think you'll be upset with the people you took behind him outproducing him. But if you drafted CeeDee Lamb, you start him and be happy with it. Dalton Schultz, set it and forget it. Zeke. I'm not going to sit here and say Zeke is washed because I don't believe that. But Zeke's production has undoubtedly gone down. And I don't know why I'm even like saying any of this, because I'm going to end it off with start Zeke. But people need to hear this. Zeke is not the same Zeke he once was. He could be better for all I care, skill-wise, mentality-wise, but the production is simply not there, and Tony Pollard is not helping at all. Tony Pollard has impressed. Tony Pollard is also another start option. He's a low-end running back too. But Ezekiel Elliott is no longer the running back 1 high end. He is no longer a low-end running back 1. I'm not too sure he's even a high-end running back 2. I think he's a mid-tier running back 2 with high-end running back 2 upside. Mainly because of Tony Pollard, who has impressed. Tony Pollard has looked very good. Tony Pollard has looked very explosive. And the Cowboys coaching staff has taken notice to this. You know they have. They've already said they want to get Tony Pollard involved more. So Zeke is not the bell cow that he once was. Like he could be a better Zeke than he was in his rookie year for all I care. If you're starting Zeke, don't expect him to return to form of what he was. I would expect more of what we saw the end of last year maybe the beginning of last year if you're lucky. But if you're starting Zeke, don't expect too much from Zeke. I would start Zeke though. I wouldn't bench Zeke. But don't go into this game thinking don't think Zeke is gonna eat. Because I don't think that's a reality. He very well, watch him have 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I think Tony Pollard will have a very real role in this offense, and he's going to eat into Zeke's eating. Yeah, I said it. Cowboys sits. Jalen Tolbert, no Brown. Don't start them. Like, I get it. The number 2 wide receiver, whoever wins it out, it's gonna be juicy. But Dalton Schultz is the number 2 target in reality. They just are the number 2 wide receiver. I don't want the third option for this team, especially if they haven't shown on the field that they can be productive. Not for week 1. Not for this team. And with that, we're finished with the second half of our games. I wish you guys the best of luck for the first week of fantasy, unless you're playing me. And if you're listening to this, buddy, you're gonna get absolutely pooped on. Again, if you have any start-sit questions or roster questions, don't be shy to ask them through Twitter, reply, DM, add me, doesn't matter. Ask away. But as always, if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out Twitter at Sloth University and our TikTok at the same handle for some extracurricular activities. Most importantly, stay safe and spread love. Class dismissed.
At any given time, there are around 1,500 aliens on the planet. Most of them right here in Manhattan. And most of them are decent enough. They're just trying to make a living.
Cab drivers.
Not as many as you'd think. Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
Well, why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. And 15 minutes ago, you knew that people were alone on this planet. Imagine what you'll know tomorrow.